Hi, so this week on my channel I'm gonna be telling a scary story, and that's why I look this scary. No, I'm just kidding. I just didn't want to. It's like the end of the day, went to go get a Starbucks, and I didn't want to put a face on or whatever. I just wanted to tell a scary story, and I thought, well, that kind of works because the scarier you look, the scarier the story. So I'm gonna be telling you about the time that I lived in Lancaster, which is kind of like the suburbs in the desert. So I don't know if you guys are like familiar with the LA area, but in LA there's the city, the valley, and then it's like the desert. Before we moved to Lancaster, they kind of like sold us a dream. So it was like this big beautiful house. It had like 4 rooms, like I don't even know how many bathrooms, its own laundry room. It had like, did I say it had 2 living rooms? It had 2 living rooms. It had a backyard. My family, my immediate family is my mom, my sister, my brother, and then my grandma, my aunt, my uncle, and his wife and their 2 kids. So it was like a whole bunch of us. We're gonna move into this huge house. We were all gonna live together. Everybody worked in the valley, so everybody was gonna have to do the commute. So I think a lot of the reason why this stuff happened to us was because I guess everybody was kind of stressed out. All living together, all different personalities is really not a good idea sometimes. Over, you know, the days, we had things that would happen to us. Doors would close by themselves. Oftentimes we would hear voices, we would see people, actual people, we would see shadows. A lot of people say that little kids are the ones who can see these things. That was the case with my younger brother. He would often go to this part where it was kind of like the kitchen, and then there was a bathroom and the laundry room, and then in the same hallway at the end was the entrance to the garage. He was really young at the time, so he was still in those walkers, so he would constantly like be walking around everywhere and just like stop at the at the beginning of the hallway and just like stare at the garage. Sometimes the garage door was closed, but the garage door, you know what I mean, like the big door was closed but the door to go into it was open. And it was dark, like the light wasn't on, and he would always hang around that area and just like look and just like pass by, and it was just like a whole weird situation. Sometimes when he would do that, the garage door would open and close. We would kind of like hear the noise, so we would be in the living room closest to the kitchen, and I would turn and be like, who opened the door, or who pushed the button or whatever. It was just like my brother there, so we would investigate whatever, and you know, there was not really any reason why the door should be opening and closing when nobody is pushing the button. You know, we're really rational people in the fact that like it can be anything else before it's like what it most likely was. But living in this house got progressively worse. It took a toll on the whole family. Waking up at 4 a.m, going to work until like 7, coming back, and the house was beautiful, but you didn't really get to enjoy it as much. We are not like a family that really chill with each other, and we were getting in a lot of fights, getting on each other's nerves for no reason. And as these things were happening, these like real world things were happening to us, weird paranormal stuff was happening. So there was this time where it was kind of early morning. Everybody had gone to work, but the rest of us kind of stayed, which was my grandma, the kids, and my aunt. Everybody was downstairs in the living room, and you know, everybody had finished cleaning, and before we realized it, we would turn around and all of the cupboards were open, like all of them. And it was just like strange. It's like, okay, one of them is open, one of the kids, whatever, got something and didn't close the cupboard. But like all of them, oftentimes also things would fly off the shelves. Like they were open and then you would notice they were open and things would fly off. Another instance was when my sister was in one of the living rooms and there was like a window going to the side of the house. We had this uncle. He's not really our uncle, he's kind of like more like a family friend, but he didn't really know where we lived at the time. He's kind of like a squatter, so he would come over all the time and eat our food and kind of just like hang out. But once we moved, we kind of lost contact with him. My sister swore that she saw him because he was the kind of guy who would kind of wear the same thing all the time, and he also wore this hat. And my sister swore that she saw him passing by through the side gate. And I guess I'm trying to make sense of it right now, but maybe it was the trash day. Sometimes he would help us out with stuff, so in our heads he was probably bringing the trash back to the backyard. So my grandma goes to the backyard and my sister runs to the front, and they, okay, so if he comes out this way we can see him, if he comes out this way we can see him. But there was nobody there. So this person passing by the window just disappeared. One of the weirdest experiences that we had was one time we were hanging out all in the garage in the front area, like with the garage door open, and we put a bunch of chairs and we were just hanging out with the family, and we noticed that a lot of owls had sat on the lights just like hanging out right there, and like whatever, like they started telling folk tales about how, you know, people believed that they were witches. It was like a bad omen or whatever. But that, yeah, that was really scary. I don't, you know, I've never, I mean, obviously you live in the desert, there's gonna be wild animals, but the whole time that we lived there we never saw them again. It was just like that one time, and we never saw owls, or heard owls for that matter, ever again. One of our uncles came to live with us, and basically like all the rooms were taken because it was a lot of us. He's like, yeah, that's fine, I don't want to like ruin you guys' system, I'll just sleep downstairs. And he would sleep downstairs, and my grandma was like, just, we could make you a little spot right here, you could sleep, you know, in our room. He's like, no, it's fine, I'd rather sleep by myself. So he had like the TV, the downstairs area to himself. After like a week or two, he finally like broke down and he was like, you know, no, I'm not sleeping down there anymore. At first he kind of complained that if we were going up and down the stairs, and we'd be like, no, nobody really leaves the rooms unless you're gonna go to the restroom. And so he was just like, no, I swear, like somebody keeps going up and down the stairs, I keep hearing the garage door, somebody rattling it or whatever. And we're like, okay, like wild animals as always. But like up and down the stairs, it was odd that he would say that, because he literally slept like maybe 5 feet from the stairs. So we thought maybe it was something like, okay, like he's sleeping downstairs by himself, it's kind of creepy in a big ass house. But at this time we had already started to believe him, because all of that stuff had already happened to us. So we were like, oh no, like now he's starting to experience it. He ended up just like, he slept in my grandma's room for like the rest of the time that we stayed there. When you live in such a weird suburbia, you just like, you notice the people around you. We would notice that people would move in, they would stay for like a month or two and then move out. And we're like, what? This is so weird. Our neighbors from next door to us, when we had moved in, they had been there for like maybe 2 months or so, which is what the other neighbors had said. But they moved out shortly after we moved in, so we didn't really get to meet them. We just knew there were 2 people and their 2 kids. But after they moved out, we would notice that their lights would go on and off, kind of weird. And they had blinds. We would see people next door when we knew that they had moved out, you know, since the longest. The weird thing about those houses was that your mailbox wasn't in the front of your house. You had to literally walk to like the corner of the community and grab their mail and go back home. And sometimes my grandma would like to do this stuff, and that's when we noticed that the street was literally abandoned. It was like us, our house, our neighbors to the right, our neighbors to the front of us, and their neighbors 2 houses down. But every other house was abandoned. Not abandoned, but like nobody lived there. There was no cars, there was no movement, there was no nothing. One of like the last times that we actually felt something was going on was when my sister was, my cousin was really young. He was like maybe like 1 or 2. and whatever. In my uncle's room, they had like a shower, and they also had like a big old jacuzzi bathtub where my little cousin loved to bathe. It was like an open space in front of the jacuzzi where it was like the sinks, which it was two, in a huge mirror, the bathroom, which was like a little room, and then to the left of them was like a huge walk-in closet with 2 doors. So my sister was like with her back to the mirror and kind of like the rest of the room. He kept kind of like looking at her but past her at the same time, which is what creeped her out the most. And you know, every time she kind of tried to get his attention, he would focus, but then always just like looked right past her, like she was there but that's not what he was looking at. So I don't know what it was, my sister, that she finally, like, you know, got a towel, she picked them up, wrapped them, and she got out of that room so fast. And she kind of like just went downstairs, and I guess it was me and my grandma downstairs, and she told us, and my grandma was like, everybody just stay together. We never had any, you know, bad things happen where we got pushed or like, you know, things like that. Just like things moving, we see people. So it was like, at this point, it was like the end of our stay there. Eventually we all kind of were like, you know what, it's not worth it. I think we were there from late May, early June to, we didn't even make it to Christmas there at all. Late September we moved back, because when I went back, I remember I went into high school late. But yeah, we literally like stayed there for the summer and got back. We could not handle that house, it was too much. We all moved back to to the valley, and then that was the end of that. We've had, you know, a lot of experiences before. Sometimes I tell my sister and it creeps her out so much, but I feel like it follows us. You know, wherever we go, we kind of always have these experiences. You know, ever since I was little, these things have happened. And yeah, it happens to us a lot. So that's why I say that it follows us everywhere we go. I'm not sure if it's particularly bad. There was only one instance when I was younger. So yeah, let me know if you want to know more. That was my story, and I'll see you next week with another vlog.